the first people that are going to be seeing Scorsese's Silence are the most important faction of the Academy, and that's 400 Jesuit priests in Rome.
Well, I mean, right there. I mean, oh my God. I mean, he's won. He's won.
That's a PR generator right there.
Oh my
Do they
God.
tweet?
Oh, if they tweet, I mean, the movie's got it made. I mean, the movie is just.
Are they allowed to go on the internet at all? Maybe that's
they own the internet.
only the correct people to show it to.
But, I don't know, but we're not going to find out until the beginning of December, or right around there, what we're looking at with Silence.
Wow.
Well,
what else?
Underworld, the new Underworld movie too. Did they get to see that too? I mean,
but Andrew Garfield did talk about it, and he said, "Look, Silence is, and this is what it sounds like. It sounds like Hacksaw Ridge, a real contrast between peace and savagery." And Andrew Garfield said, "Look, there's great chunks of Silence that are incredibly savage and violent and bloody."
Mm-hmm. Well,
so it might be a very dynamic Scorsese movie. It might be a lot more dynamic than something like Kundun, because if you remember Kundun has one sequence where the editing is very rapid fire, and he's standing in a pool of dead bodies or something at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And so one moment that feels like, oh, this is a Scorsese movie.
No, I think Silence has that, because it's given the subject matter. This is when the Japanese open up after Commodore Perry. I mean, because they're very, closed off society. So, I mean, I can imagine this has the potential to be a really awe-inspiring epic. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Well, one thing's for sure, it'll be heartfelt because he's worked on it forever, and it has to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they gave the Governor's Awards out the other night to
yeah. Let's
Frederick
talk about
Wiseman.
that. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Sylvester Stallone that gave Jackie Chan his honorary Oscar, and apparently the clip reel was superb. I don't understand. They really should. By the way, they really should televise this show somewhere. Doesn't have to be on
I
ABC.
agree. Yeah.
But give it to TNT or something like that. But they really should televise it. I think it's important, and it draws now as the event draws as many stars as the Oscars does, and in fact, the Academy and everybody who's jockeying for Oscar nominations in January or whatever, consider this kind of a major stop. A kind of a gearing up place for the race to come, and so it could be framed in that way if they televised it. But I think it's important to see this stuff, and apparently the clip reels were as you might predict for Jackie Chan, very exciting. And but the same thing goes for Andy Coates, the editor of David Lean films and so forth. And
the action sequences in the Frederick Wiseman clip reel. Could you come up with two polar opposites of more contrast than the two of them? Jackie Chan and Frederick Wiseman.
10-minute scene of a woman trying to get welfare in 1967 or something like that.
Jackie Chan.
And then, of course, the first casting director, Lynn Stallmaster, who's a man, by the way, not a woman, And like I said earlier in the year, I think they should have given the award to a woman first, but nevertheless, it's good that finally casting is being recognized. I like that they're choosing very surprising people. They're not going for Harrison Ford or whatever. They're trying to do one of those a year, but they're definitely going into other realms, stuntmen and things like that, and I think that is fantastic, and it makes
from
them.
The evening on the Oscar YouTube channel has clips of all the acceptance speeches and some of the presentations.
Yeah, that's really good too. So, that's...
Other news: Night of the Living Dead got a 4K restoration, and they say the movies never look better. Because if there's one movie I want to see in as pristine of visual quality as possible.
But doesn't remind you that it was played grindhouses and drive-ins ad nauseum.
Right. I remember years ago when they remastered the first Chainsaw for the first time. It wasn't 4K, but it was for Laserdisc. I remember I used to collect Laserdiscs, and I was so excited about Chainsaw. I drove an hour out of town to pick it up, and I special ordered it and stuff. And there was a quote on it from Tobe Hooper where he said, "The last time this movie looked this good, I was seeing it through my viewfinder." And I was thinking to myself, well, movies don't look good when you're looking at them through the viewfinder.
They're a little foggy, aren't they? I don't know. I've never looked through a major big camera kind of viewfinder, so.
Maybe it's different with modern-day Alexas, and, of course, you have monitors and all that kind of stuff. But we're talking about a 16-millimeter camera in 1973. And he said, it hasn't looked that good since I was looking at it through that camera. And I was thinking, well, this movie must look shittier than ever. But anyway, I always thought it was fine. But I'd be interested in watching the 4K restoration of Night of the Living Dead just to see if it still works in all that clarity. Because I think part of the reason why these movies work is because they're grungy, because they put you in that's part of the environment they create, I think. And the movie wasn't shot to look like it was shot by James Wong Howe or something, or meant to look like
it's well shot, but it has great black and white in it. But you're right, and that's one of those things. I think back to Grindhouse. The movie that came out. The Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez double feature with previews and everything like that. And the one thing that movie got right that I think people miss by watching Planet Terror as a separate movie now and Death Proof as a separate movie, and I'm not quite sure, but I think they've been scrubbed up too, so they don't have that sort of scratchy look anymore that Grindhouse delivered in its run.
Right.
Grindhouse is probably the only movie that I can think of, other than, something obscure like Lawrence Bridges' 12, which nobody's seen. But it's the only movie I can think of that really understands the joy of watching a beat-up print of a movie and the kind of unique feeling that bad cuts and scratches and cigarette burns on the top corner of the end of the reel, and sound pops and missing reels and jump cuts that were clearly not meant to be there. I think that's those two filmmakers particularly understand that, and I think it is just something that's lost in this race to scrub up movies so that they look like they're happening right there in front of you. Well, there's that veil that veil is very important that film brought to things. Maybe it's just nostalgia for me. I don't know.
There is some nostalgia, but it is. I'm always grateful I saw it in the way it was meant to be seen. That whole experience. I mean, I'm always grateful.
Yeah, that was a fun night at the movies.
It was
in the theatrical. I thought it was so funny, and I forget what movie it was or what critic it was, but it was a major critic, and he panned a movie recently, just in the past month or so, where he talked about he was waxing poetic about, the filmmaker. He started at the middle of the story and then went back to the beginning. He's trying to be so clever, and it just completely ruins the movie. The movie makes no sense, and the device does not work. He's just trying to be too clever. And as it turned out, they put the reels in the wrong order when they screened it for him. The dude didn't even realize it.
Well, maybe that's what happened with you and Rules Don't Apply.
Rules Don't Apply, baby. Now, that movie could have used the reels out of order. It would have given it some life. That is, I laughed out loud when I read that, though. I wish I could remember the movie. But David O. Russell has a TV series on Amazon, and it's going to star Robert De Niro and Julianne Moore.
Wow, that's big news. Further proof that filmmakers who are trying to do good movies are now retreating to television.
Mm-hmm.
Because or you might say advancing these days to television because they're the venue that's searching for good stuff, and it doesn't seem like the movies are. So they've made it too difficult for these artists to work, proven artists to work.
Well, here's a question for you. Does this piece of news here, does it show that Max Landis loves his father or hates his father? Because he is writing and directing a remake of his father's American Werewolf in London.
I only have one question. Only one question.
Okay.
Who will be his Vic Morrow in his life? That's my only question.
No.
Good Lord.
Well, I definitely. I mean, Max Landis is like sort of. I mean, he's becoming notorious, isn't he? Doesn't he have some kind of reputation for being able to write like a screenplay a day or something like that? Like, it takes him like 2 days to pump out a screenplay. That's supposed to be a good thing.
I've never heard that. Tell me, is he? I mean, I know he wrote Chronicle, and he's already going after the Power Rangers movie for supposedly ripping off Chronicle based on the trailer. There was that whole thing. But what is Max Landis? I mean, if I can paraphrase Gary Johnson, what is Aleppo? What is Max Landis?
As far as like remaking American Werewolf in London,
why? I mean,
I just watched American Werewolf in London again on Halloween, and I think it's funny when people talk about the great horror movies. No one mentions that one, but everybody loves that movie. But it's not
so
a
funny.
comedy.
I mean,
it is funny, but it's not just a comedy. It is a true horrific horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing's for sure. I mean, let's just say this: I'd be very surprised if he brings any. Landis has whatever you want to say about Landis and the whole, the mistakes that he's made and everything like that, but he has had, I would say, in the late 70s, early 80s, just one of the most distinctive styles out there. Just a very, very specific kind of editing style, scoring, photography, the direction of the actors, the comedy itself, just a very, very specific style to the point where like he's one of those directors that in every one of those movies he uses the same font as his credits.
Right.
You know,
right.
Style.
No. I agree. Up till Coming to America, I think he has a pretty great record. To be honest with you, I mean, a really great performance record. I mean.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the pressure that his son's putting upon himself, I guess.
To answer your question, Jerry, if the movie really sucks, then Max Landis' Vic Morrow will be his father.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
it's an odd thing. I mean, it's such an odd thing to remake your father's film. I mean, I'm sorry, I just do think when I saw it, I thought it was a joke at first, but I mean, it was someone else doing it. I could see that.
Maybe he'll put in scenes from the original movie, and it'll be like when Natalie Cole did a duet with her dead father years ago. It'll be the movie version of that.
Or it could be like the Limey where they have the flashbacks are from Ken Loach's Poor Cow. They could do that. You know.
I just want to know why is Max Landis like the new hot thing? Because I mean, you look at the past. You know, there's Chronicle. You know, which doesn't really was a modest hit. But it doesn't really register with me. There's American Ultra,
which
was not successful in any real way at all. Yeah, and then there was Victor Frankenstein, which is one of the worst movies of this year.
I missed Victor Frankenstein. I think I got hit by a car that day, but but I missed that. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at this thing. So he did.
Yeah, I heard that happened to you, Jerry, and I heard that Miles Teller just signed on to do a movie about it.
Yeah, he said I got that text a little while ago. I'm just looking at his thing here. There's Chronicle, there's Mr. Right, the one with Sam Rockwell, there's American Ultra, there's Victor Frankenstein. Is he the showrunner for Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the one on BBC America? So he is sort of hot at the moment, if that makes sense. I mean,
he was just, wasn't he just given some astronomical sum for some screenplay that he had written? And by the way, I read a thing, a profile of him, and he does boast of being a very quick screenwriter. So maybe it's because he's been brought on in ways that we don't know about. Maybe he's a doctor.
Maybe
he's a screenplay doctor in some ways, but
and plus,
but I haven't seen anything.
I think I don't know that being a fast screenplay writer is something to boast about, unless you're applying for a job with Roger Corman.
It just, yeah. I mean, I know good screenplays can come fast, but
right.
Stallone wrote Rocky in like a week or something. So, but by the way, I just watched Rocky 2 the other day. Two movies that I was using. I have to bring this up. 2 movies that I was using to sort of distract myself while the election was going down on Election Day. And I said, I just want to go back to the early 80s. So the first one was Rocky 2, which I still find myself incredibly moved at.
Oh, yeah.
And when I'm watching it, I feel like it's just as good as the first one in a lot of ways. It just feels like a kind of a perfect sequel in a lot of ways. It still has a gritty feel to it, but it's kind of stepped up a little bit, just like the character has, and it's still just as exciting, and I'm incredibly moved by it. The other movie that I watched, which was possibly more fitting, was from, I guess it was 1981, Harold Becker's Taps.
My God. Okay. Wow, you really did go back on this one. Oh, my God.
Well, these are on Amazon Prime, and, there's not a lot of choices there in terms of 80s and 70s movies. Most of the 70s movies that they have on there are kung fu movies. Actually, they must have 70 or 80 kung fu movies from Hong Kong and the 70s. But so if that's your thing, Amazon Prime is there for you. But so I was watching Taps, which I recall as being the last movie that I saw with my parents while they were still together.
Wow.
We went to a theater, a four-wall theater, which was very unusual for us, and that was the last thing that we saw, which was also very prophetic because their marriage ended not too long after that. But I just realized that as the election was not going the way I wanted it to go, I would flip back to the election thing and go, oh, my God, it looks terrible. And I go back to Taps, and I'm like, now I'm watching Taps, and they're playing Taps and everything, like, oh, my God, please.
Well, I was thinking that American Werewolf in London was very an odd choice to get your mind off what was happening in the country. You're watching a movie about a good-looking guy that morphs into something nightmarish.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that was. I saw that on Halloween, but yes, I did use that to distract me, and that is funny. But anyway, Taps is still a pretty good movie. It's interesting to go back and take a look at it. The parts that start off with George C. Scott it starts off dull, I think, but it gets very rousing and still feels relevant, I think now. But it's great to see Timothy Hutton, of course, and Sean Penn and Tom Cruise, and I had forgotten that Giancarlo Esposito is in it.
Oh wow, I forgot. Yeah, wow. Okay.
So, and somebody else too was in it that I was like, oh, he went on to bigger things. He played one of the kids in it. Evan Handler. Is that somebody that you recognize?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I think he was in the People vs. O.J. Simpson, so he's still doing stuff, and I just thought that it's just interesting to go back and see some of those 80s movies and see people too that went on to bigger things, and you forgot that they were even in it, like Giancarlo Esposito. So, but a good movie, I thought.
By the way, what movie did Timothy Hutton and Jack Nicholson do together?
Oh my God!
Oh wow!
Because I was reading an interview with Timothy Hutton, and he was saying he said I was making a movie with Jack Nicholson at the time that he met a certain person, and I was like, what movie did they do together?
Huh. Well, I'm looking, and Iceman, Daniel, I can't see it. Even earlier in his career, in some TV movies that he had done, I can't see any kind of dovetail into Nicholson's career, so I don't know.
Maybe one of them backed out. Ultimately, I don't know. Hang on, I'm Googling it. Timothy Hutton, Jack Nicholson. Nope, nothing.
Yeah.
MGM. The month-long trial. Oh, it did lead to something. Hang on. Actor Timothy Hutton wins $10 million lawsuit against MGM when it canceled plans for the 1983 movie Roadshow. It was terminated because the director Richard Brooks suffered a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And he was supposed to do the movie with Jack Nicholson and Mary Steenburgen. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Interesting. It's always interesting also to hear about scuttled projects by great directors. That's another thing that, like, I mean, whatever happened to, remember they were talking about doing Kubrick's Napoleon, for television, but that seems to have gone away. But there seems to be so many unproduced scripts that were going to be produced by great directors. I'm thinking of something like, Something's Got to Give. That was going to be the last, the Marilyn Monroe's last movie. That was I think a Billy Wilder thing or something, and that's gone. But why?
Yeah, it was one of those other like directors. That? It was God, who did that? I can't. George Cukor. That was a George Cukor movie,
okay.
And that actually came out in a re-edited form. It's a feature-length movie using all the footage that they had. So they did finish it and come out with it about a decade or so ago.
Well, I just there's so many scuttled movies that
right.
Have gotten forgotten over the years, and the scripts still exist, and I just wonder why somebody doesn't do those, or I'm just sort of spitballing here for ideas for people, but
Well, here's something. We'll leave on a positive note about a murder, because I love Hollywood murder stories and all that kind of stuff. We mentioned. I love a good murder.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Well, you mentioned Greg Kinnear earlier, and one of Greg Kinnear's great performances is as Bob Crane in Pulse Raiders Autofocus. So the point of contention for many years has been that John Carpenter, someone he befriended, kind of a pervy guy, equal to Bob Crane, was that John Carpenter murdered him. And but they were never able to prove it. Now they can. They've done a DNA test. And they're not saying whether or not it's John Carpenter's DNA, but they say they have proven who the killer is, and they're announcing it on the news tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Now, I don't remember. I don't know which newscast, but check your news the following morning, or Google it or something, and you'll find out who really killed Bob Crane.
That'll be very interesting. And just to let everybody know, it's not John Carpenter, the director, or anything.
I know. People, I was waiting for someone to clear that up.
It's the director. That's true.
It's William Dafoe, guys. It's William Dafoe.
Oh, man.
Let's start that rumor right here.
That'll be nice and healthy for the people.
Yeah. I think we just fucked John Carpenter, personally. Yeah.
Oh, great. I'll never come on your show now, guys. Fuck you.
Yeah. He won't anyway. By the way, I've tried for him for many years. There's no shot in hell that we'll ever get Warren Beatty on the show. But I just want to let you guys know that next week we do have the next best thing. So I'll just tease you with that.
Okay. That'll be good.
His gardener?
All right, guys.
Okay, all right. Okay, good night, everyone.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.